What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Games with R&D podcast. My name's Garrett Anderson, and today we have Roberto.
Hi, how's it going?
And Dan.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We have a lot to discuss, and since it is the very first episode of the Games with R&D podcast, first of all, we're going to just basically do introductions so that you could all get to know us better. Second of all, we'll be going over the games that we are currently playing, and third, the games that we are looking forward to most in 2020. So let's just get right to it. I'm going to go to my left. Roberto, who are you?
Male.
Go into detail. I'd like to know. We do know a lot about you. You know, you're really passionate about games. We know that you've worked at GameStop, correct?
Yeah,
Why
I
don't you
used
talk
to work
a little
at
bit about that?
Well, let's see. I'm 28. Been really into games since I was young. NES was the first thing that I got really into, just by a family friend just gave me their hand-me-downs, and I'm like, cool. This is I got something new, something to play with, and that kind of stuff. And
Right.
Actually, I played nothing but Nintendo consoles until I started working because my family didn't want to buy me other things, or specifically video games. They didn't want me to touch those things.
Your mom and dad were against video games?
Oh yeah, they
Okay.
were really against it. Somehow that we were able. It wasn't just me, but my sisters also kind of made it. So we all three of us would join together to try to convince them to buy us the next console and stuff.
Got it.
And so we finally were able to get that stuff. So yeah, Nintendo was always the thing that I did before I started working. My first job, I got an Xbox from a friend.
Nice.
And from there, I started trying different things. Let's see. Mass Effect was actually one of the first games I got into. That's the thing that that really stuck with me and made me actually just look for new things.
Okay.
From there, I started working at GameStop and learned a lot of different things. How the company works, what their mentality, or learning or seeing how interacting with developers and that kind of stuff. So that was always fun. Ever since, I've always been looking for new and try different things.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Mass Effect was a huge game for me too. That was definitely influential to me as far as getting into science fiction, space opera RPGs. I mean, that's probably one of the best series out there in that category for sure. Dan, let's talk about you and where you fell in love with games and your history.
My history, first video game console was actually the Atari 2600 that my mom gave me.
I'm high-fiving Dan.
There you go. Got that when I was 6 years old, actually.
Very cool.
Pac-Man, Combat, all those games that were classics, and started just playing them. Quickly escalated to the 52, and then I skipped a few, and then went to the Nintendo, and then it just went to the arcade all the time. Took a bunch of quarters,
Nice.
Playing. The first game I actually beat in the arcade was Double Dragon.
Ooh.
And that was hard, especially when you're actually trying to do it. But then I found a trick.
Okay.
You just do the elbow the whole way through. Just go
Okay.
elbow, and you kick everybody's butt. And you win the game like that on one quarter. And when I finally beat it on one quarter, I was so satisfied.
You beat the game.
I totally beat the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I beat the game before. I mean, it took
Right.
me about 3, 4 quarters, 5 quarters, whatever. And
Sure.
then finally, when I did it with the 1 quarter, and this is back when video games were actually a quarter. It's not $1, $2, $3.
Sure.
It's not like DDR where you got to sit there and get tired. Oh my god.
Or the Luigi's Mansion game in Scandia.
Right. Oh my god, so difficult. So anyway, and then it escalated, and I started to quickly get a passion for role-playing games. Started playing a lot of racing games. So back in the day, it was Super Nintendo. It was a Super RC. Actually, the regular Nintendo was RC Pro-Am.
Okay.
With the little RC cars, and
Sure.
you go around the little tracks, and it got harder and harder as you went through. And then RPGs, trying to make decisions and puzzle solving and going through the storyline, and you can't save it yet, Mom. Hold on,
Right. Leaving your console on all day until you get home from school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was super fun. Legend of Zelda was the first home console game that I beat back on the NES.
Amazing.
Still loved it. Didn't like the second one though.
It's okay.
They were both gold cartridges, but you know what? The first one, you can never beat it. Then I moved in, started working at GameStop. Started in San Antonio, Texas, moved out to California. That's when I met Roberto, because we worked for GameStop in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
Different stores, but we quickly became friends.
When there was 2 different stores in the same mall.
Yeah.
I remember that. Upstairs and downstairs.
He worked
right.
at the upstairs. I worked on the downstairs store.
Oh, cool.
So we'd be constantly calling each other, hey, do you have this game that says you got it? Okay, yeah, that's fine. And we'd run back and forth, sprinting through the mall, say, with the game, okay, we got it. Did you ring it up? Where's the customer? Here it is. There you go. Take it.
Sure.
It was super fun. doing that. I quickly left afterwards, and now I work for another retailer that sells video games, but more than that. Still in my RPGs, still in my racing games, and every now and then a couple of sports games and, fighting games, stuff like that. Not really good at them, but I still like to play them anyway.
That's awesome.
That's who I am.
That's cool.
Yep.
I guess that means it's my turn. So, my gaming history goes back to my childhood, which I think that, usually when most people talk about when they got into games, it usually goes back to those early days. And, I'm no different. I also had a 2600. But for me, my earliest memories of playing games was actually in school. We actually had one computer for 4 classrooms. I'm 37, so I'm dating myself here. But we had Oregon Trail available to play. And playing Oregon Trail for the first time, I remember basically bribing other students for me to have their time on the computer just so I could play Oregon Trail. That was probably my first obsession.
Quick question.
Sure.
Did you still have to use floppies for this game?
You know what? I can't remember because once again, this was one computer for 4 classrooms. Literally, the teacher would have to walk me in there, boot up the game, and luckily enough, I had teachers that were willing to let me do that because I wasn't really passionate about anything else except for this. So they thought I was getting something out of it, at least some history or whatnot.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Also, interestingly enough, I had a friend named Kenny Sutherland. Shout out to Kenny. Don't know where you are at all anymore. Doesn't even know if he's live, but he was a great friend at the time. His father owned a used auto car place down off of Commerce in Rohnert Park. And right next to his used automobile shop was a repair pinball and arcade cabinet place where his father and the guy who owned that shop were really good friends. So naturally, Kenny and I would hang out in this shop and everything was there. Like the Addams Family pinball machine, the tabletop Mrs. Pac-Man. And I just literally had all access to this because obviously they knew how to fix them, so we didn't actually have to put in money to these things in order to play them. Yeah. And so that was, usually where I was spending most of my summers was at this just repair shop for pinballs and arcade cabinets. I also had all the original NES and, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. I even had weird off consoles like the TurboGrafx 16 and Jaguar and stuff. But, honestly, I don't really feel that any of those consoles really put the nail in the coffin for me as far as like getting a love for games. It probably wasn't till like the original Xbox or PlayStation 1 era. I remember the first time, and this is just a huge shout out to this game, I played Fable.
Oh, yeah.
On the original Xbox. And because I was such a fantasy nerd at the time, I used to, collect little like figurines, I used to read D&D books, and man, I fell in love with Fable in a way that I had never fallen in love with any other form of media. I kind of realized then that I enjoyed playing games more than I actually liked watching movies or reading. It's probably terrible. Don't ever let my mother, God rest her soul, ever hear that. But it's true.
You still have to read while you play those games anyway.
It's true. Yeah. But, we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty. But basically what I'm saying is that game kind of changed the way that I thought about games. And so ever since the OG Xbox PS1, I've owned all the consoles, and I've had multiple games over the years that have definitely influenced me. I think Dark Souls right now is probably my number 1 favorite series of all time, but there are many, many more. I mean, the BioShock series, for instance, will always hold like a really close place to my heart. The Metro series. Right? I'm really big into first-person shooters that are very, very story-based, but I also like my huge open-world RPGs via The Witcher 3, Skyrim, obviously, like I had already said, Fable. And so I also play really small indie games. When the rise of the indie game started coming out, on the Xbox 360 with games with gold, there was games like Castle Crashers. Yeah. And now with PC, obviously on Steam and, Switch and all these other consoles that you can just you can just have access to all these smaller games like Hyperlight Drifter, Kingdoms and Castles. There's just so many games out there. And now I'm finding myself in a position where, honestly, at 37, I truly believe that I'll be playing games for the rest of my life.
Yep. I'm 42. I'm still playing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into this contest.
No. It's not a contest.
You already said how old you were. Sorry.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon or some saying like that.
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
not
it.
quite
Yeah,
sure.
It's a marathon, yeah.
And that's the basic gist of it. If we keep on recording these podcasts, obviously you guys out there listening will definitely be able to find out a lot more about us in the future just from hearing our conversations and such.
Yep.
That's our basic foundation. Let's just hop right on into what we've been playing. Roberto.
Me? Well, a lot of people that know me know that I like Overwatch a lot. I kind of got somebody into, at work again, into it, and he relapsed, and so now, every time he has time off and I have time off, we're just playing a lot more, and it makes me remember, just when it first came out, like, having friends, playing with those friends, working together, trying to make it through, capturing the point, or, moving, escorting the platform all the way to the end. How much fun it is to actually talk to people in that game.
Right.
Because normally I have this thing where I get anxious and I don't want to I don't want to talk to the people that I don't know. And so I was like I used to just mute myself and hear what they're talking, but it's gotten so bad that now I just turn off chat, so I don't have to deal with that. But now I have like maybe 3 people now that I'm playing with. And
the internet's a scary place.
No, it's one of those things that I just want to get I'm trying to get used to talking to other people, especially because I want to be able to play comp with others.
Sure.
Just because of the big changes that they're going to start happening in this game, and with 2 coming, maybe next year or the end of this year. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for that. But I've also been playing Temtem, which is that new little, well, not little anymore, but the Pokemon inspired MMO game. It's a little different. It's a little bit more complicated. I do like that it has more difficulty than Pokemon that Pokemon has now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's just one of the few things that I've been doing.
When you say more difficult, is it kind of geared towards, I hate to say it, but quote-unquote, like, older players? I know Pokemon is obviously played by, like, a large base of people.
For Pokemon,
That's me.
For Pokemon, it used to be a little bit more difficult. There was a lot of more grinding in the game itself.
Okay.
They've made it a lot easier, which, I've been kind of disappointed. What was it? I think it was Black and White where you were able to turn off EXP share, which was great because it felt more like the older game. But now they made it into a mandatory thing, so all your Pokemon keep leveling up, even though they're not battling and that kind of stuff. Temtem goes back to that style, where you are, those Temtems that are in the battle are the only ones that get experience.
Okay.
And the other thing that they're doing differently is that, unlike Pokemon, where each attack has like its usage, it's all about stamina. So if you don't have the stamina, you could still use that attack, but it's going to hurt your Temtem because it's overexerting itself. And then, it has to wait a turn to recover a little bit of health, or stamina, to be able to actually attack. And it's a 2v2 battle.
Got it.
So, it's not just, 1 versus 1, and you're like, oh, I know the abilities of this one, so I know how to beat it. No. Now you actually have to know how each one responds, but also there's special moves that if you have like a Temtem that is nature, you will get an extra boost on that attack. So you have to figure out how to combine those Temtem to work for you and have those specific attacks. And it's still in early access, so there's still a lot of things to work on the game. Okay. But it's going really well. I'm enjoying it, but I feel like something's still missing, and I'm excited to see what they're gonna do because it has promise.
What do you think that they could improve on?
Well, they don't really have that multiplayer aspect. I do like how you could see other players and you could see their Temtems. And there's still like a lot of open or like little houses that say work in progress, which makes sense. They're still working on it. And then I don't know, some of the sound effects that the Temtems get. One, it's like the default duck sound kind of thing. Yeah. So just a little bit more variety on that kind of stuff. But that's just nitpicking those little things. I haven't really made it that far into the story. I mean, I think like maybe 5-6 hours into the game itself.
Sure.
But that's one of the few things. The big one that I've been having kind of problems with was like the servers. But that's something that's gonna be fixed later on and that kind of stuff. So
is it because they're so crowded? Are there a lot of people playing?
Oh yeah.
So it's being like well received by the Pokemon community.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
everything?
It's pretty much right now Pokemon for PC players.
Got it.
Because it's not anywhere else. It's on Steam, and like I said, it's an early access game. But it's published by Humble Bundle, and it's made by a developing team in Madrid called Crema. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna do. I see that they have promise. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing in the future for this game.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really cool. Only because I feel like, with the Pokemon name, there is so much expectation that comes with that. Like, I don't know very much about Pokemon. I'm not going to sit on this podcast and say I'm a Pokemon expert.
No,
but I have heard. Is it true that the last game that got released got a lot of slack for not releasing all the Pokemon?
Oh, yeah.
God, yes. Yeah,
no,
that's one of the things.
Yeah, what was it? The Dexit? That's what they're calling it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because there's 400 and something Pokemon available in Sword and Shield. There's still, the same thing where you can only access certain of them, in one version compared to the other. But and a lot of the core aspects are still there. But yeah, they, like Roberto said, they did make it extremely easy to play through the game. You don't have to fight as hard to, defeat the gym leaders. You have access to the experience share right from the very beginning. There's just... I liked the way they kept it in the very beginning. Like, you actually had to manage your Pokemon in your boxes.
Okay.
If you sent a Pokemon into your box and it had 1 HP, it would not get auto-healed. You actually had to go take it to the Pokemon Center, put it in there. You actually had to manage your items that were in your box, too.
Sure,
You
it's not holding your hand. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but nowadays, you can have almost unlimited supply of whatever you want, and the battles are still harder because you still have to do type matching, and they added, new typings from, was that Black and White with the fairy? And
fairy.
But still, they did make the core gameplay a lot easier. Still fun to play. I mean, I love it. I'm a breeder at heart when it comes to Pokemon.
Sure.
So I'm constantly breeding for people that play competitively.
All right.
So I'm getting the high IVs and making sure that they know how to EV train it, or else I'll just EV train it myself. But they made that even easier too. Maybe not the breeding aspect of it. You still have to, do certain things and get certain items in order to get what you need, and the certain natures and IVs and whatnot. But as far as EV training, they made it so much easier.
There's the judgment feature now.
Yeah, the judge feature was something that they introduced back in, I want to say Black and White. I don't remember exactly, but I used it to no end in Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, and it was a lot harder to access the judge function to actually calculate your IVs for your Pokemon. But now, once you beat the game and you go to a certain spot, then they'll say, oh, do you want the judge function? And then you just see them through the box, and you don't have to keep taking one individually, talking to the judge. Okay, what does it have? What does it have?
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. With Pokemon, there's so much expectation and so much that's already been set as far as foundation goes that people expect this specific thing out of this specific game. Well, with Temtem, they kind of have like an open plate, right? They kind of have the ability to kind of make some stuff up as their own because they don't have this lineage, behind them. Let me ask you just real quick. Do you think that they have their own Pikachu or Squirtle or like any of
Not that
those?
I've seen yet.
Like, do you think they have their mascot, right? Do they have that like starting crew to get people just like, wearing the T-shirts and wearing the hats and getting into it at that level?
With the Pikachu thing, that's because of the show.
Okay.
So, that's one of those things that it didn't happen until the show happened.
Sure.
So with Temtem, if, they did, the first trailer was like an anime-style trailer.
Okay.
But, it's just a trailer. There's no story or anything like that. Because, Pokemon, it was a video game first, right? Or was it a trading card? No, it was a video game. And then they introduced the trading card. And in order to sell the trading cards, they made the cartoon.
Right.
And so, that's how they were able to sell a lot of these things together is by the cartoon. Mm-hmm. And with Temtem, they don't have that. They're starting with just the game. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see how it goes. But for now, I really haven't seen anything when it comes to, like, that, their mascot. Because they have their starters. They have 3 starters, which I can't tell you their names right now because
that's what I'm wondering.
There's so many different names, all this stuff,
right.
And it's still I'm still learning the things that's happening in this world because it's an interesting world, but there's just so many things going on. I'm just like I'm trying to just get through the story,
focusing on gameplay.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, that's
and
cool.
it looks nice. I like their aesthetics.
Sure.
It looks really interesting. But it's just one of those things that I just need to put more time into it and figure out how it works. Because for you, Dan, there's a lot of breeding. There's so many things for breeding.
God, yeah, I'm a breeder extraordinaire, and I hoe out my Ditto all the time, and that thing is just like constantly pumping out eggs. It's crazy. And then I'm checking every single one of them, and then I'll start wonder trading them all away, or actually what they call them now is surprise trade.
Yeah.
But
speaking of that, Pokemon Home, they're bringing back Wonder Trade.
Yes.
So we'll see how that goes.
Hopefully it works out really well, and I mean, I love anything Pokemon, but generally I'm just one of the breeder guys. I'll be like, I don't really battle competitively, but I'll make something for you,
sure,
so that you can battle competitively.
Hey, however you want to play the game and however you enjoy the content, I say.
Yeah.
Well, that's Temtem.
Yeah, Temtem.
Awesome. Dan.
Yep.
What have you been playing?
Obviously I've been playing Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yeah. What else have you been playing?
On my PS4, I've been playing Death Stranding.
Ooh, okay.
Right. So I'm not very far into it, so no spoilers, please. But yeah, I'm working on it little by little, playing Death Stranding. Really, really interesting game, though. I really like how the rain just messes you up. Actually, I was off all day, and I started playing, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to dedicate my whole day to playing Death Stranding. Started playing Death Stranding. I was like, all right, this is cool. Oh, wow, wait, what? They call it a timefall? It's not just rain? All right, cool, whatever. So a couple of days later, it actually starts drizzling outside. And I was like, I was actually almost like nervous to go outside because I thought it was going to be the same effect like in the video game. I was going to start aging, like going, oh no, oh my god.
You just fall over.
I did. I was just going, it was very interesting how that actually got correlated because it was just like a little drizzle.
Okay.
And then I was, oh my god, wait a minute, this is real life. It's water. That's fine. I'll be fine. I have my Xbox One. I don't really have any games on the Xbox One, but I do play some of the classics. So I'm playing Kingdoms of Amalur.
Ooh, that is an amazing.
Oh my god, R.A. Salvatore is such an amazing author, and he did most of the story, if not all of the story for that game. Amazing. I love playing it. I'll play it multiple times. I love that. I also played Torchlight. I haven't got Torchlight 2 yet.
Okay.
But I do have Torchlight, and I love that one.
You know about Torchlight.
Save that for later.
Okay.
Yes, later. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Playing that one, and then I also play some adapted board games on the Xbox. So I'm playing Pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Which is very true to the board game. I'm also playing the Lord of the Rings card game, which is exactly the same thing. And I'm like, all right, cool. Same rules, same everything.
Yeah.
Just a little bit easier. You get to see it on the screen. What else? And on mobile, basically on my cell phone, I'm just playing, random little games, Legendary, the stupid thing right there. I'm playing WWE Supercard, which is just a card version of wrestling, and you just compare stats, and then boom, you win, and you get a bunch of rare stuff. It's really cool, super fun to play. I like playing all that stuff. I also play Pokemon Go, of course, since it actually came out. Yeah. And I've been playing. I mean, I haven't kept up with it much lately, but yeah, still same thing. Playing Pokemon Go, walking around, catch some Pokemon.
Sure.
Spin your little Pokestops. It's all good. Do some stuff.
Do your appraisals.
Yeah, do my appraisals, and I'll literally just get rid of the Pokemon I don't need. It says no breeding. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just take the candy, and then I'll try to do like that. So yeah, I'm working on my Dragonite, and I'm working on a few others, and I'm trying to do some raids now. And it's gonna be fun. Cool. I love Pokemon. Like I said, I've been playing that since it came out in blue. I actually had a Japanese version of green Pokemon.
Oh.
And didn't know anything. Well, I still don't know anything of Japanese. So I would actually I had a notepad that had the kanji, and I would write the kanji, and then I would write what it did, and if it did no damage, and if something else happened. So I was like, okay, this attack does nothing. So, so then, and I'm like evolving these Pokemon, and I'm just creating these weird attacks. So I was like, okay, this one seems to do a lot of damage to this one, and like.
Yeah.
And that was actually the first Pokemon game I played was the Japanese green. Then I moved into blue and red, and I was, okay, this makes sense now. Now I know why they don't do damage. This is just Thunder Wave. It's only paralyzing him. Okay, that's a good move. Kind of, in the early stages. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm playing. A lot of Racers, Forza, as soon as I get another Forza game, I'll be playing that on Xbox. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Just real quick before I get into what I've been playing. Wasn't it Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning? Mm-hmm. The studio who made that, I believe, was somehow funded by like Kurt Schilling or a famous like baseball player or football player or sports ball guy.
Like the actual
Rhode Island.
Yeah, the state of Rhode Island.
The state of Rhode Island. But there was also a famous athlete who also like supported the development of that game, and that game Yes, I've played that through that game at least twice.
Oh, yeah.
Which is sad
with different
like,
classes.
everybody just says it's a great game. It should have done better.
So much dialogue, but yes, it is a great game.
And then it just, unfortunately, it just didn't sell well enough.
Yep,
and
never
all
again,
the stuff
gone.
that happened,
Yeah.
just, Rhode Island's like, we're never doing that again.
Right.
They, what was it? They tried to get as much money from the developers as much as they could, but still went on a loss. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, it was such a great game. Still is, and like I said, I'm playing it.
Cult
I
classic.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Love that game.
Well, so I guess that means I am going to talk about the game that I just finished literally 2 hours before I walked into this house to do this podcast. I literally called Roberto. My hands were shaking. I was excited. I had to wipe the sweat from my brow, and I'm really excited to talk about it.
You also had to stop yourself multiple times from telling me
I did.
about the game.
Because I was so excited, and I was here, this is some inside baseball stuff, but I was in here 2 hours before recording, and I just wanted to talk about it, and I just had to bite my tongue. It was like I was sitting there, we were watching Park and Recreations or 30 Rock or some shit, and I was just like, I gotta talk about it. No, can't talk about it. Nope, not gonna talk about it. And so anyway, now I get to talk about it. So Remnant from the Ashes. Awesome. So this game is developed by Gunfire Games from a small studio from Texas, who I guess are under the THQ Nordic umbrella. And from what I understand is some of the developers who worked on Darksiders were responsible for creating this game. If I have to reduce it down, it's an action role-playing third-person shooter with Souls-like mechanics. But I don't really want to just kind of reduce it down to that, just kind of talking about it a little bit. It's got a pretty basic story. I mean, tell me you've heard this one before. An evil presence have come from another dimension to take over the earth, and now you are the last of humanity to save what's left. Sound pretty typical?
Actually,
I don't
no.
think that's not a spoiler. So it's a pretty run-of-the-mill storyline. And so, traditionally with Souls-like games, as far as the Dark Souls 1 through 3 and Bloodborne, those stories have been kind of cryptic, right? They don't kind of tell you everything that's going on right up front. It's up to you to discover the lore through the NPCs, the items that you pick up. This is more like, no, here's a pretty basic story. Where it does start to get really Souls-like. There's everything from an Estus flask equivalent, meaning that's how you heal, right? So you have limited heals. There is a bonfire equivalent, meaning that you have to get to specific checkpoints before you can save the game. Once you set at a checkpoint, this actually will replenish your health. But here's the kicker. The reason why this is so much different than Dark Souls is it's a third-person shooter. And a really good third-person shooter. This is like Gears of War style combat in a Dark Souls universe. And when you combine those two together, they pair very well. And what I'll say is you get to create a character. There are 3 different classes. You have your melee-based character, which, primarily is using melee-class weapons, swords, sledgehammers, everything like that, to mid-range combat, shotguns, SMGs, assault rifles, to the hunter class, which is heavily relying on hunter and sniper rifles. I decided to play the hunter class just because traditionally in Souls-like games, I basically build a huge strength character, big, huge greatsword, really heavy armor, and I just slash the shit out of everything. And I thought to myself, hey, let's change it up a little bit, right? Let's play from the ranged combat. And it really made it a lot of fun. What I'll say too is the way that you upgrade your character is a lot different from Souls. Generally from Dark Souls you have strength, dexterity, vitality, and that's what you're putting your points into. Instead of that, you choose your character and you get different traits which you constantly are unlocking throughout the game. So you'll get a trait that does bonus melee damage or bonus range damage. Of course you can still put points into your vitality and your stamina meter, but you can really spec out your character to be a very, very unique figure in the world. And as I was playing the game, I should say it actually has co-op. And you can basically make your game open to the public, which means anybody can join your game randomly. I gotta say, the amount of variety that I saw throughout my gameplay, which was like, I don't know, about like 30 to 35 hours, was insane. I saw so many different builds, and you don't normally see that too much in the Souls-like. I don't want to make any Dark Souls players mad, but there's a lot of people running around with Havel armor and a greatsword. Let's just put it that way. And it's because that's one of the easier way to play those games. This just had all kinds of customization. I can't even tell you how many weapons I found that I wish I had spec'd into, but I had already kind of like went all in on. So I found a sniper rifle pretty on early in the game, so I really spec'd everything I could into this ranged capability. But there was multiple times throughout the game, and specifically special areas throughout the game, where I was like, oh shit, I should have done close quarter combat, because this sniper rifle is not working in this close quarters at all.
So are you able to respec at any time?
So I don't want to spoil that. I will say yes, but I don't want to tell you when.
Right.
But what I will say without spoilers, choose early. And unfortunately, that is one of the negatives about the game, I will say, is that you really should commit early on a build. Because if you don't, you're going to evenly distribute your points and find yourself extremely underpowered for specific areas. It is so Souls-like in that there are shortcuts which you unlock. They are not as jaw-dropping as some of the shortcuts that I have found. I mean, honestly, Dark Souls 1 was probably some of the most just eye-opening, like, you mean this was on the other side of this door the whole fucking time? Like, really? Like, there's none of those moments, but there are still shortcuts where you're like, oh, thank God, I found a shortcut. I never have to run through this area of the game again. And also, I gotta say about the world, it's kind of bland. So there's basically 4 different areas throughout the game, all of which have different environmental settings. I don't want to spoil what they are, but when I say environmental setting, think of a forest, a desert, you fill in the gap, right? And everything looks really samey, meaning like a lot of assets are reused. Like, I can't tell you how many times I saw the same pot, the same desk, the same plant. And I'm like, oh, yep, seen that thing 500 times. And, you know, to be fair, this is a smaller team. So I realized they didn't have a bazillion dollars to put in it. This is 100% not a AAA title with a AAA, fund to just work with.
Right.
But saying that, still, I think they could have done a better job just making the worlds just feel more lived in. Like, when you play Bloodborne and you're walking through the streets of Yharnam, that place just feels lived in. I just can't describe the first time I went through Yharnam, and I'm like, this is terrible. This is terrible in the best possible way. These people are going to die. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I never really felt that way. But I will say that the voice acting is actually better than most of the Souls games that I've played. Generally, the voice acting from the NPCs in Souls games have been kind of throwaway. There was some voice actors, and I couldn't tell you who they are, that I 100% recognized, and it wasn't just phoned in. There's some really, really good, dialogue in the game. However, one change to it, your character also speaks, and oh boy, that should not... There's like 5 lines that your character says throughout the entire game, and it's so out of place. Like, you'll get into this big, huge combat scenario, and you'll just take tons of damage, and I always play as a girl in games. Oh, yeah. That's something else that you just found out about me. But my character will be like, woo! That was close. And it's like, what are you talking about? I'm about to die. I have 1 sliver of health. Like, the enthusiasm that's in her voice is totally out of place to the situation and scenario. I'm willing to forgive that because video games. But I kind of would have opted in to have the silent protagonist over, like, poor voice acting on my part. I want to say, too, that I think they did multiplayer really well. And like I said before, it's cooperative, and anybody can spawn in you at any time. But they added a really good ping system, which I think is super important now these days. Because I, like you, Roberto, am scared of the internet. And I don't want to hear what these people are saying, nor do I want to actually have to speak to them. Because it's probably a 12-year-old telling me how bad I am, and he just runs up and kills the boss for me. So instead, there's a ping system. You can basically say, hey, there's an item over there. Hey, I want to fight the boss. Hey, I need to go back to the campfire to rest. And there's obviously emotes, everything from thumbs up and a whole bunch of things that they basically stole from Souls. I don't want to say what they are. Roberto's holding his hands up, possibly towards the sun. Maybe a Praise the Sun reference? I don't know. You're going to have to play the game to find out. Also,
that's how I walk into work every day.
Praise the sun. Praise the sun.
I am here. That's it.
Lastly, I'll say is I think that what makes a Souls game good is the bosses.
Yeah.
Right? When you play Dark Souls, those bosses are memorable. And man, I feel like they kind of phoned in some of the bosses. Some of these boss fights aren't really like big and like spectacular. They're more like hordes of enemies. Yeah. And this is where I'm talking about like the Gears of War side to things. Okay. It like turns into essentially like a horde mode, but like level 50 horde mode, where it's just they're just throwing everything out of the monster closet at you. And they straight stole boss designs from Dark Souls. And in fact, the hardest boss in the game, and I'm not going to spoil this, is one of the easiest bosses in Dark Souls. Players will know what I'm talking about when they see it. They are going to laugh because this boss is trivial in Dark Souls. It's probably the easiest one you could probably fight. In this game, she's a bitch. I hate her. She killed me literally like 2 hours, I want to say, before I was just like, I finally said, you know what? I'm opening my game up to the public. I should say that too. You can play offline, right? I opened it up to the public. I let these people spawn in. And I basically said, kill this thing for me because I can't anymore. I just can't. I've got a 16-month-old son at home. I got a wife. I got responsibilities. I got to work tomorrow. I got shit to do. I don't have time for this anymore. But I will say there were a couple of really awesome bosses that really blew my mind as far as like art direction and design. And at the end of the day, it did what a Dark Souls game does for me, and that makes my hands shake. My heart is pounding out of my chest. And when you finally beat that boss, you throw that controller on some soft object because you don't want to break it. And you walk away and you just, yeah, I did that! And you get excited about it and you feel like you accomplished something. And when I saw the credits roll, I felt that way. I'm not saying it's better than Neo. I'm not saying it's better than Salt and Sanctuary. I'm not saying it's better than a lot of the Souls-like games that are out there, but I do think that if you're listening out there and you love Dark Souls, you owe it to yourself to at least try it. And even if you're not a Dark Souls fan, I think it's got enough just basic third-person shooting mechanics that I think that even people who aren't into Souls will initially kind of grab onto that and then just kind of adopt all the Souls mechanics as they go.
Yep.
So that's what I've been playing. And I think we're just going to jump right on into what we're really most anticipated for as far as the games that we'll be releasing in 2020. Let's just go right on to Roberto. What are you looking forward to?
So, do we start from like the least or to
you can
the
start
number
in
one spot?
Whatever way you want. Let's just leave it open. How about that?
Well, in that case, I mean, just right off the bat, the game that I'm super excited for is Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, there's a reason why I bought a new PC.
Yeah, you did.
That thing is just solely, or not solely, but the main reason why I bought a PC.
It is sexy.
Temtem.
Yes, it's definitely for Temtem. No, yeah.
Ray tracing and Temtem.
No, for Cyberpunk 2077, when, what was it? They showed it off, I was like, sold. But the month after, they finally released like that whole hour demo of the actual game. The game. And just me and my girlfriend just sat on our couch and watched the whole thing. And we're just like, what the hell? This is amazing. It's CD Projekt Red doing their thing. I'm like, I already knew it was going to be great. They made The Witcher. They've done nothing but great things. They try to do what they can for their the players that play their games, and they just knocked it out of the park with just watching what they were doing in this game. And I'm like, it's ambitious. They know what they're doing. Both of us just watching, and we're just like, so we're buying a new PC, right? And she's like, yep, we're gonna buy a new PC. I'm like, cool, yeah. Now we just have to figure out how to get it. I'm like, all right, okay,
awesome.
But yeah, no, that's the main one that I'm super excited for. The next one would be Doom Eternal, which comes out in March 20th.
Nope.
I've been trying to hold back not to see anything because I've been super excited. I've been super excited after beating 2016.
It's a great game.
Great game. Great soundtrack.
Great soundtrack.
And the first one I played on the PlayStation 4, but I just re-downloaded it on my PC just so I can get a refresh and get back into it again. Just be ready for the new game. But what was it? I think Kind of Funny had like a first impressions kind of thing. and they were just showing like the new mechanics, the new weapons, the new demons, and just it looks the eviscerations, the mutilations, the music, the gameplay, just everything, the detail of how like you are, every time you shoot specific demons and their health goes down, you see like parts of them coming off and all this stuff. I'm like, this is gorgeous.
You're hyped.
I'm excited for this game. Bloody games, like the big ones that I've always been excited for with this kind of violence is like Mortal Kombat and Doom,
right?
And just like the way they just make their games, it's very artistic.
Roberto doesn't mess with rated R stuff. He just goes to the adults only content,
pretty much,
instantaneously.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just so excited for these two games, and I'm sad that Cyberpunk got pushed back till September.
Yeah.
But at least I still have Doom. Hopefully, it still stays in March because I'm not going to be very happy.
Yeah, that's going to be really bad. If that thing gets pushed back out of everything else that's been pushed back, it's going to be a pretty slow couple of months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What else you got?
After that, the big exclusives for PlayStation, Ghost of Tsushima, by Sucker Punch, and then Last of Us. And I don't really think I should say anything about The Last of Us because everybody knows this.
Yeah.
What was it? I just got an email from Sony saying like, "Hey, this is our list of our most influential games of the decade, and guess which one was the number one spot out of all the voters?
Absolutely,
Last of Us.
Absolutely.
And it's just one of those things. People have been excited. We've been waiting, wondering if they were going to release one. They finally announced it, and now it's this year that it's coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, after the end of The Last of Us, which obviously I will not spoil, I personally didn't think I wanted any more of that. Like, I walked away from that game saying, I think that might have been one of the most solid endings of a game that ever was created, and I just didn't know if I wanted any more. And I still honestly don't know how I feel about it. It really just depends upon if they can narratively kind of hit the same, or if not even more emotions within me a second time around. I mean, it's hard to, get lightning in a bottle twice. It is very hard to do it twice. But if anybody can do it, it's those guys. Naughty Dog is an amazing team, and I think they've already proven themselves.
I mean, isn't it true that the sequels are always better?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'm trying to think of one that is Terminator 2. Ha! We got there.
All right, we got it. Yes.
Aliens.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to argue with you on that one. This is a discussion for another time.
Okay,
we can't get into it. We can't.
We're not gonna take it into movies here.
Yeah. No. So Dan, what are we looking forward to?
There's a lot of the same things that Roberto has on his list with Cyberpunk 2077, The Last of Us 2, and I kind of got a game that I want to play on my Xbox more, which is actually Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh, yes. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, I saw the demo for that, or not a demo, but like a trailer for it, and it looks so amazing, and they really improved on it from the first game. And that's really going to get me to jump on my my Xbox One a lot more often and play an actual current game on it instead of just Forza or Pandemic or something.
Sure.
That's one of the ones I really, really want to see because it's like I said, it just looks so nice. And then you got giant bosses that you get to fight and everything. It's really nice. I like it. I used to work at Square Enix. That's something you didn't know about me, but now you do. I was a game master for Final Fantasy XI.
Awesome.
And, Square Enix is now finally releasing the remake of Final Fantasy VII.
Wow.
So, I want to play it. I played it a billion times. I've defeated all the weapons. I've gotten all the materia mastered. I've done everything, and it's amazing. And now I want to see what they did this time around and how they actually changed it. I know the combat system is a little tweaked. Some of it, you can go back to the ATB system, which is active time battles. But you also have the new combat system as well. And then just storylines and then updated, graphics where you actually have characters that look like people instead of Lego. because they all look square and blocky.
Sure,
you know,
sure,
like,
sure.
Like really, they had just square hands.
Yeah.
You know, Barrett especially is like, okay, which one is a hand, which one is a gun? Oh, it's that one right there. Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing that. You know, and especially since they did do. What was that? The Advent Children, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Was like that. That was such an amazing storyline. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Avengers. Marvel's Avengers. It has nothing to do with the movies, but it's still a Marvel game, and I'm a big superhero fan. Kind of cheating on one is like zombie games, so then Dying Light and Dead Island 2.
Sure.
So Dying Light 2, Dead Island 2. Zombie games. Both of them have like slightly different combat systems, but still at the core the same game. You go, you kill zombies for a reason, you try to save a bunch of people, you survive, you don't die, and that's it. That's what I'm mainly looking forward to in the 2020. Of course, there's a lot of other games that I'm looking forward to, but those are the main ones that I really want to play.
Quick question, Dave.
Yeah.
For Dying Light, didn't they just announce they got pushed back?
It did.
Did they say when it's getting pushed back to?
That did not actually. There's no definite date for Dying Light 2 yet. Whereas Dead Island 2 is supposed to be released in April.
And who's making Dead Island 2? Because it's not.
It's not going to be. No, it's not.
It's
the
not
first
Jaeger,
people.
right?
No, I don't think so.
That's the thing that I was kind of sad about because Jaeger closed.
Yeah.
After they lost the contract to that.
Right.
Which is.
After Dead Island Riptide.
Was it Riptide?
I thought it was Riptide.
Because they were working on it, and that part, and I'm like, all right, if Jaeger's doing it, I'm still down for it,
right?
Because they also did Spec Ops: The Line,
right.
And that was another one that was an underrated game that I wished a lot more people played. But yeah, no, after they took the contract from Jaeger, Jaeger went down,
right?
And I'm like, well, what happens to this team? So.
I just want to kill zombies.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I just want to slice zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to slice a zombie's face off.
Yep.
That's just... Yeah.
Or arms or legs or whatever,
Whatever
kick them in the groin,
You can also, instead of zombies, you could do demons.
Say. That's true. I mean, but it's more satisfying when it's a zombie because then you can just pretend like it's your ex-wife.
Oh, damn.
Oh. Yeah, okay, we're not going to do that.
Oof, digging deep there.
Yeah, we are. It's fun. Like, take that, bitch.
Alright, well, I guess this is where I kind of sound like the old crabby guy. Here's the thing, is I would love to talk about the games I'm looking forward to in 2020. But let's talk about my Steam library, okay? I've got a problem, okay? This is something that you now have found out about me. I currently now have over 1,400 something games in my Steam library. Because the Steam library is so large, there's only one way to tackle it, and that's alphabetically. I am currently in the Fs. I just recently finished Fallout New Vegas, but then I get also pulled away from whatever game I'm playing at the time, like Remnant from the Ashes or whatever. I still plan on tackling that, because once in a while... I find a gem. And when I find that gem, I rant about that gem. Nobody ever plays the gems I find, but still, maybe on here somebody will. And I'm going to still do that. And so I would like to talk about the games I'm looking forward to, but honestly, there's still so many games of this year I haven't gotten to that I just really want to play. I still haven't gotten around to the Outer Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Obsidian.
Yeah.
Basically some sort of Fallout clone from what I understand, but just a little bit tighter, a little bit more smaller in scope, which actually fits my lifestyle now that I'm a father. I don't have all this time in the world. I don't have, 100 hours. Well, I do. It just takes me a lot longer, and I like the idea of being able to finish a game quickly. And then the Jedi Fallen Order. I still would love to play that. When it drops in price, I'm definitely going to be able to pick that up. A Plague Tale Innocence. That game definitely is on my radar big time. Another game that I'm going to look forward to, but I know it's nowhere near 2020, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, is Elden Ring. And it's From Software's game, and in fact, they've teamed up with none other than George R. Martin. He's never finishing the last book, guys. Just get over that right now, okay? If you're a Game of Thrones fan, sorry, From Software and him are making a video game more important. Fight me. Anyway, second of all, out of all games that are coming out in the future, I mean, really, I'm kind of on Team Roberto here with Doom. However, I probably honestly won't play that game in 2020. To me, I'll probably wait till that game probably drops to 20, even $10, because right now you could pick up Doom 16 on like Fanatical for like $6.
Oh,
And so I guess I should warn you guys, it's going to be pretty rare that I'm talking about a AAA developed game the day of release. There will be some exceptions. I'll be on Team Cyberpunk, obviously, when that comes up. But unless I'm really on board, generally, I'm usually playing games that, you know, have a little bit of old hair on them, because I just feel like I don't need to play everything right when it comes out. There's definitely, obviously, advantages to that. Bugs are kind of, you know, wormed out of the equation there. The price drops.
Yep.
I don't feel as much pressure to play them. But I also obviously want to be part of the conversation. So I'll do the best I can to keep up with you.
But I'll play it for you.
Yeah, please do. And then, you know, obviously when it comes back full circle, maybe we can have that conversation again. So I know my part was pretty short and sweet, but I honestly, there isn't a whole lot in 2020 that I feel like I must play. Other than Cyberpunk, other than Doom. Those are probably like the two that I know that I will purchase right now. The fact is there are so many games in my wish list. Now with the Epic Game Store, those jerks are giving me free games now every week. I don't even know what to do. And because I'm an OCD, I feel like I at least owe these smaller games to give them a shot. I mean, that's how I found games like Hyper Light Drifter, which is probably one of my favorite indie games of all time. I would have never found that game if it wasn't just for, like, just randomly stumbling upon it. So that's pretty much it as far as what I'm looking forward to. And, hey, guys, I think that's a podcast.
I think you're right.
I think it is. Well, thank you so much for joining the Games with R&D podcast, episode 1. We've all had a great time, and take care.